Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today I'm joined by FPL Heisenberg to give you a slightly different game week preview than normal. Now guys, I've seen your comments and a lot of you are slightly bored, let's just say, of the template picks, and I'll be honest, so am I. So today, Wes and I are going to give you a differential 11 for the upcoming double game week 37. Wes, explain to the viewers, why are differentials right now at this point of the season more important than ever?
Yeah, so right now I think they're really important, especially if you're chasing in mini leagues or chasing down rank, because obviously if you're chasing, let's just say you're chasing your best mate down, you want to beat him and you've got a fairly similar team, you know, you don't want to be bringing in the likes of a Rashford, a Salah, those sort of players if you haven't got them already and your mate has them, because then you can't, you know, it's harder to catch them if you're going to just match their team. So you've got to differentiate yourself. And now's the time to do it. I've got a good story actually that I've just thought of from last season. I was chasing myself, and in the last, I think it was sort of game week 36, 37, 38 onwards. Those last 3 weeks, yeah. I got James Maddison in who, just did really well for me. I had him captain and he saved my season basically in that game week 37 and 38, especially with a really big haul when most people didn't have him. So I went for a Hail Mary, captained him. It saved me from getting like a 200k rank, and I ended getting a okay rank in the end. So now is the time to do it. Only 2 game weeks left.
Absolutely. I think it's what we're trying to say is it's like, yeah, if you're not going to do it now, then you're just kind of succumbing yourself to defeat. You kind of have to go for the risk now. Otherwise, what's the point? Whereas earlier in the season, it's better to probably play a little bit more template because there's so much time left. But now, why not? Okay, what we're going to do, Wes, is we're just going to build the team right here on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub. So if you want to get us started, my friend, on a keeper, yes, and we'll just go from there.
Yes, so this is a keeper with a double game week, a keeper that's a differential, a keeper that's got the potential for save points, possibly not clean sheets, which is obviously something that you should be going for with keepers, but you never know. Sometimes in big games, maybe they can scrape a 0-0 or something. So I'll go for the Chelsea goalkeeper Mendy, who appears to have won his place back from Kepa. And obviously this is a differential video and you can't get more differential as a goalkeeper than Mendy, I'd say. Especially if you did want a double game week goalkeeper. The likes of Steele and De Gea and even Ederson are going to have relatively high ownership, and you're covering that clean sheet. Even if those 3 keepers I just mentioned who have doubles, even if the keepers aren't that super high owned, the other players like Shaw from Man United, people have already got the Man United clean sheet covered, the City clean sheet covered, the Brighton clean sheet covered. No one's really got Chelsea players right now. Now, I'm not a big, I'm not here to convince you that Chelsea are going to keep a load of clean sheets, but it's a way of going differential and getting a double game with goalkeeper in as well.
Absolutely. I think exactly. Like it's a good pick. It's not one that you would pick earlier in the season, but if you are, say, 50 points, 100 points behind someone that you need to catch in a mini league, you have to start differentiating your team. And why not go for Mendy? You can't get more differential than that. Okay. I will. Just
last point on Mendy. What you can get from goalkeepers in the harder fixtures, when you don't get those clean sheets, you can get save points. I remember Mendy himself actually saved an Aguero penalty a year or 2 ago. So who knows? A penalty save, yeah, indeed, a penalty save away at one of the Manchester grounds. Who knows? Could happen, and no one's going to have those points in Mendy. So it's a uber differential to start us off.
I've just got Ederson up on screen as someone that is in my team, for example, and is in a lot of teams now. If you look at his points potential with that Real Madrid fixture and other games to come, he could easily get a rest. First of all,
yeah.
Second of all, Brighton away, Chelsea at home. Yeah, of course he could keep a clean sheet in either of those games, but I just don't see them. At least don't see him hauling in either of those games. I genuinely don't see a reason as to why Mendy couldn't outscore him just with save points alone. It's unlikely, but it's not the craziest of shouts in my opinion. So exactly. I think Mendy's a solid pick. Of course, not the optimal pick, but that's not the point of this video. Okay, then I'm going to get into a defender now, my friend. Now, this one is not as differential, but given what we've just seen with the Stupinian hauling, I think that if people aren't on him already, that's going to be the go-to for the upcoming double. I think that if you want to go differential, you have to look at another Brighton defender. So I've gone for Lewis Dunk. Now, not a super differential, already in a decent amount of teams, but ownership below 10%. And he's a sort of player that could just pop up with a bullet header or a free kick or something like that. And again, if you're trying to chase and a lot of people above you in many leagues have a Stupinian, you can't really go for him at this stage of the season. There's just not enough time to accrue those points that you need. So you're going to have to look for a little bit of variance, and yeah, a dunk bullet header could be that.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. You've nailed all the reasons as to why you should, differentiate if you're trying to chase someone who already has a Stupinian. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Okay, mate. Up next, what do you want to go for? Do you want to start with a midfielder?
Yeah, why not? Let's mix it up. So I'll go for my first midfielder. Excuse me. Anthony from United. Playing really well in recent weeks. Differential. Again, we've got he's kind of a legit differential as well, with maybe Rashford being out. Maybe that helps him. Obviously, they don't play in the exact same position, but that Rashford and Anthony are both sort of on the wings. So if Rashford is out, it's one less winger to compete for those slots, because someone like Sancho might cover for Rashford, leaving Anthony more game time or whatever. So yeah, there's a few things working for him. He's doing well recently, and obviously I'm trying to. With most of my picks, the majority of them have double game weeks, not all of them, but yeah, it's a double game week as well. It's obviously harder to find good differentials in the double game week teams, because we're all loaded up on the good Brighton assets. The likes of Bruno and Rashford and players like that. So yeah, he's a good double game week differential, which is hard to find this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that Anthony may well be a sort of a bandwagon differential if Rashford is definitely out for those games. It seems like a
maybe
pretty easy switch. Okay, I will go with another defender. Again, slightly more mainstream, and I'm not actually sure what his ownership is. Let me have a look at this. Okay, still below 10%. It's Ruben Diaz. Now, I think that the City going for, I've just said about the merits of potentially not going for Ederson, but I do think having a City defender in there or some sort of coverage could well be important. I mean, I know I was giving reasons to not go for Ederson, but if you can get someone who is going to play every game until the end of the season, which I think Diaz will. Obviously, I'm not sure about that. There's going to be rotation in that City team, especially if they do wrap up the league. I think he's a good pick. I think he's the most nailed City defender right now. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think in general, I'd say Diaz is the most nailed. I nearly got Diaz myself a few weeks back, but with the leaks came out that him and Stones were both not playing a couple of weeks ago, so I ended up avoiding both. It was one of those two. But it's just worrying, isn't it? Because obviously you did miss that game recently that I'm talking about, maybe 2 game weeks ago, was it? And obviously so did Stones. Now they've got the league wrapped up. What are they going to do? The point you made about Ederson was great, because I remember Scott Carson got a game randomly. Was it last year or 2 years ago or something? So I'm just worried about every single player at City. It's a dilemma for my own team. I've only got Haaland. I had 2 free transfers with the idea of getting 3 City, but now the league's gone the way it has. Are they going to maybe in the first game of game week 37, maybe play their full strength team, then maybe fully rest everyone, and then in the last game of the season go full strength again, just for the momentum for the cup finals and stuff like that? I don't know. So I don't know. I can't second guess Pep, but yeah, someone like Diaz or Stones, maybe it is a case of, okay, well, they've got a double game week, so as long as they play 1 out of 2, solid chance of a clean sheet, and they're both sort of, again, a bit like Dunk, they could potentially score a bullet header, the likes of a Stones or with Diaz, maybe. But yeah, I don't think you should be, if you want a guaranteed double game week defender, maybe avoid City. But if you want one, I think the good thing with City is they're so, I know Ederson tends to let in one goal from one shot on target a lot of the time. However, the fact that they don't allow many shots on their goal means that the clean sheet potential is high. So yeah, as long as you get a start in one of the games and a clean sheet, then you're looking at 6 to 9 points, aren't you? But depending on bonus, so yeah, it's a decent differential shout.
Yeah, it's a tough one because City clearly the best team in the league, but rotation is the big thing. Even further up the team, exactly as we said, not really sure. I will say in general, defenders are quite hard for 37 and 38 to pick differentials from. That's just a couple that I had in mind. All right, up to you next. Where do you want to go? Anywhere in the team?
Let's go. Let's get forward in.
Nice.
This is my only forward, then I'll leave the rest to you. So again, it's another Man United player. It's Anthony Martial, a double game week. His minutes will be compromised as always with Martial because of his sort of just general fitness level. He often gets subbed early, but I think there'll be 2 starts there, and maybe he'll get subbed off on the sort of 65th, 70th minute, which is fine if he's got the points in the bag. Obviously, if it's not ideal if he hasn't and he gets subbed early, of course, but there's still a decent chunk of time there. And when you compare, there's not that many forward options with double game weeks like Chelsea. Do we want any forwards from Chelsea? Not really. Brighton's forwards are kind of mainly, it's mainly sort of a goalkeeper or a Stupinian plus maybe a couple of midfielders in everyone's team. So yeah, it's hard to get a double game week forward. And Martial's obviously back in the team and doing okay. So it's normally I normally avoid players like Martial because I always think, oh, you know what, in 3 or 4 game weeks time, I'm going to need to transfer him out. He'll be a headache for me. But we don't have that. We have the luxury now of only being 2 game weeks left. So in 37, he's got a double game week. He should get enough minutes there. And then it's game week 38. So you're not having a risky player who's going to, mess up your season in like game week 18. It's the last 2 game weeks of the season. We've got to switch our mindset from almost, when you're on a free hit and you literally only have to think about 1 game week. We're kind of in that territory now, but it's only 2 game weeks, if that makes sense. So it's a very short period of time. So these risky players who get rotated a lot, the likes of Mahrez's, Martial's, other players like that, it's almost like take a punt. It's only 2 game weeks, and it's not going to derail your whole season. And it's not going to be a future headache like these players sometimes can be.
I think Martial and Anthony, I think, are like the cornerstones of the differentials this week because, yes, it's only 3 games left, as you say. So therefore, they're in the team. It shortens the period that they could get injured in. But also the fixtures are really good because although they don't look amazing on paper, the 3 teams that they're playing, Chelsea, Bournemouth and Fulham, all have literally nothing to play for now.
Yeah.
As in they're all safe, nowhere to go.
Yeah. 2 of those are at home as well. United are much better at home. And and in terms of, you've just mentioned 3 teams with nothing to play for. Obviously, some of these picks so far have been teams with something to play for. So Man United, Newcastle, and Liverpool have all basically got to win their games to guarantee top 4. Liverpool are probably going to catch. If United lose a game, Liverpool will probably catch them. So United aren't just going to rotate and play the youngsters in game week 38. They're going to go full strength for the rest of the season. And likewise for a few other teams. So I think that's important right now when picking differentials. Think about teams with something to play for.
Yeah, 100%. Now, speaking of which, I'm going to go back to a Brighton midfielder. It's a name that's come about, and it's an interesting pick, I would say. He's not a midfielder; he's a forward. I really thought he was a midfielder. That is how little I know.
I know you're going to say that.
I really thought he was a midfielder. But I mean, it works. Yeah. It works. But wow, that's going to change the shape from a 3-5-2 to a 3-4-3. But I'm all for it. Yeah, and Ciso, that shows how differential he is. I didn't even know he was a midfielder.
Yeah, 4.6 forward, and is super cheap as well. So I know price points don't matter as much at this point in the season, but if you need to free up budget as well, maybe you do want to jump onto a Bruno Fernandes for the double or whatever. Maybe you could do 2 transfers, 1 differential, 1 a little bit more template. Those big hitters that you might want, like a De Bruyne or whatever. And this is going to free up a lot of money. He's basically as cheap as you can get for forward, isn't he?
Well, there you go. Under 2% owned. Very similar to the likes of Martial. Just, in the team now with that March injury. I don't really see, maybe his minutes, just like Martial, are going to be limited. He might be one of the first to come off. But again, as we've said, so much to play for. It would be absolutely historic for Brighton to get into Europe. And they're not actually out of the Champions League race either. If they were to get 7 points maybe from their final 3 games, ideally 9, but City at home is a tough one. They would be in with a good shout, I think.
And the good thing is we're recording this obviously before the Newcastle-Brighton game. So just keep an eye on, because I know obviously Ciso went off with some sort of a knock last game, didn't he? So just keep an eye on that. As long as he's in the squad for that Newcastle game, we know he's fit. If he's not, obviously, then you can kind of find another differential. But as of right now, there's nothing to suggest, as far as I'm aware, that he's definitely out longer term. If he is, obviously, just ignoring Ciso. But I do know that he went off injured last game. So just, keep an eye on that squad for the Newcastle fixture.
I will say that Newcastle-Brighton game is absolutely massive. If Brighton are to win that, then, because obviously that's kind of like a 6-pointer, but higher in the league, obviously stops Newcastle getting the points. And then, of course, United against Chelsea. It's not an easy fixture. If they were to lose that, then Brighton are right back in it all of a sudden. So that could be a really interesting end to the season with obviously so much to play for. Okay, there you go. I've learned something. So differential. I didn't even know that the man was a forward. Nonetheless, let's carry on. Who you got?
Let's go back. I'll do my final defender, and then I've got a couple of midfielders. So Porro from Spurs. And again, it's not, like you said, I found it quite hard picking when I was looking at the fixtures for the last 2 games and trying to pick defenders or goalkeepers with clean sheet potential. But I was kind of looking at I don't know, I just couldn't really pick out any anything I was really that confident with clean sheets. However, with Porro, you get some attacking threat, don't you? And no one's really on the Spurs defense at the minute. So, if there was a clean sheet, like I was saying earlier, with certain players that are different, I've got, for example, in my team, Fabian Schär, who's a differential. However, the Newcastle clean sheet is not a differential because of Trippier, because of Botman, because of even Pope. So, whereas with someone like Porro, they have Brentford at home, who have got obviously nothing to play for, not the worst fixture in the world. Maybe Tony's still injured, who knows? And then they've got Leeds away. So in terms of two fixtures for Spurs, they're pretty good. And yeah, I just like he's got some attacking threat, and Spurs don't play with the back four, do they? They play with obviously that back five, and Porro bombs forward. So yeah, and again, he would kind of scare me if this was sort of game week 32, and I was worried about being tied to him long term, but that's not the case right now. So yeah, I like him as an attacking threat. Do I think he'll get 2 clean sheets out of the next 2? No, but there's a chance. They're not the worst fixtures in the world.
I actually really like the Leeds fixture, especially. There's a high chance. I don't really want to be rude or predict this, but Leeds could well be relegated by that point if they don't get a result against West Ham, and Everton do against I think it's Wolves that they're playing. Can't quite remember that. It might be Bournemouth. I'm not sure. But
Everton have Wolves and then Bournemouth. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So by 38, Leeds could be down. And Leeds away as an attacking wing back with them nothing to play for, just saying, a very melancholic atmosphere you'd imagine at the stadium. That could be a whole potential. So yeah, I do like that pick.
Yeah, and I can't see Spurs wanting to sort of just play the kids because Spurs will have sort of Europa for fight. Not sure what they're fighting for in terms of the maths behind what positions they can get, but yeah, they're going to want to finish as high up as possible. And yeah, I don't think Ryan Mason's just going to sort of be like, sod it, let's just play the kids and potentially lose the game. I think they're going to go full strength. There's nothing for them, they don't have to rest for any cups or anything like that, or they're not in a good place where they can just sort of try out some youngsters. They just need wins to keep the fans sort of mildly happy.
So that's our first single game week pick for 37, which I think is a differential in its own, because you're not going to have many managers looking for players that don't double in 37. But as we see in pretty much every double game week ever, there's always players, quite a few actually to be fair, that outscore the doublers. I mean, look at Newcastle defence so far this week, just 1 point between all of them. A lot of defenders, of course, have done considerably better.
And my last 2 aren't double game week players either, because I think it's harder to pick those differentials who have doubles. I'm a big double game week fan, of course, but yeah, I've picked out some more single game week options as well.
Okay, so let's just. So do you mind if I finish out the forward slots, or do you want to go there?
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I've got 2 midfielders left, so you go ahead.
Nice. All right, so I want to pick another single game week player who is in a lot of teams right now, but still only 14% owned. And I think that he actually may be on quite a few benches next week, which I think is crazy. It's Callum Wilson against Leicester at home.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that screams Hall. Not the biggest differential as he is in a lot of teams right now, but if he starts through the middle against Leicester at home, who again could be relegated or very close to relegation. We saw yesterday in that game, they just absolutely capitulated as soon as they conceded that goal. They were actually playing pretty well for the first 25 minutes, but then absolute capitulation. It was pretty embarrassing to see that defending. I mean, there could have been 3 goals in about 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. I think that could be a massive haul for Wilson. If Newcastle are on it again with everything to play for, it doesn't really matter what happens in the Brighton game. They still have to win that game against Leicester. That screams haul potential to me. And I don't think a lot of people will be going there because of the single game fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think people will be necessarily getting on him. And his form's incredible, Callum Wilson. He's on penalties, as we know. Even with Isaac on the pitch, he took both, which was frustrating for me as an Isaac owner, captainer. So yeah, absolutely. And like you say, his ownership, I think in the top 100k, it had climbed quite high to like 30%, but even still, it's not a differential in the truest sort of under 10% in the, but it's still a differential. It's still going to be differential points. You'd still be happy with player with only 30% ownership in your team getting you the points. And like you said, that ownership is going to dwindle down for 30% because people will bench, or they'll maybe transfer him out to a cheap forward to free up money for the likes of a De Bruyne or something like that. So yeah, that will almost certainly go down when people have to bench, because yeah, for me, I'm looking at potentially benching my Newcastle assets. If I do bring in double gaming players, I might have to bench. I probably won't, but I might have to bench Isaac at home to Leicester. And the only reason I say that is because it's like kind of back to what you say. Some people will have Wilson, they'll want to start him, but they just possibly won't be able to squeeze him in. A bit like this week, I had someone like Luke Shaw on the bench who came in for Rashford for me. I didn't want to bench him, but physically couldn't squeeze him in. Players like Trent, or who else did well, and other players. So Yeah, I think it'll be a similar sort of story with everyone having fairly deep benches off the back of bench boosts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think like for me and my team, I don't know. I feel like he's like might be slightly easier to bench than Wilson that we know is going to start just because he's so explosive. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I've got like Grealish in my team. I'm looking at him versus Wilson. I genuinely would think that Wilson would outscore Grealish despite the doubles just because of rotation and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because he might not. Yeah, Grealish might not even play both.
Yeah, I just think you got to be super wary about benching someone that is as explosive as Wilson, and I do think that is the best possible fixture in the league. So it's one of those that I think it's kind of anti what you would expect in a double, but there could be a
Yeah.
huge haul potential there. Okay, midfielders to come.
Yes. So, who have I got? So I'll go for. Again, I'm not sure how differential he is in sort of like the top parts of the game and stuff like that, and the engaged managers, but I'd say he's fairly differential. Odegaard. Um, Obviously, a lot of people jumped off Arsenal now. If they have got Arsenal players in the midfield, especially, they've got the likes of a Saka or a Martinelli. But Odegaard is just quietly, for me, if all throughout the season I'd have backed the likes of Saka and Martinelli from an FPL point of view over Odegaard, but I'd have been wrong, really, because I think in terms of overall points, Odegaard's right up there. Um, he's really good on bonus. If Martinelli, who's potentially injured now, but if he gets one goal, he very rarely gets bonus. Similar story for Saka. Whereas with Odegaard, he's just one of those players who smashes bonus, which is always nice. And yeah, his recent form, I want to say over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 weeks has been really good. Um, and yeah, I think again, Arsenal are they don't really have anything to play for in terms of they've got second sign up and they probably can't win the league, but they've got Forest away in 37, then they've got Wolves at home. So two good fixtures from a team who, there's some doom and gloom around Arsenal at the minute, but they are still the second best team in the league. And Odegaard's been pivotal in that. And with the likes of Martinelli maybe injured and Saka not really performing from an attacking output point of view, then Odegaard could be the man. So yeah, I think. And again, Forest, Forest are decent at home. They have got something to play for, of course, but I can't really see Forest keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal, and neither for Wolves in 38. So, and if anyone's going to get the points for Arsenal, either a goal from long range or an assist, I think Odegaard's got a really, really good chance.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And again, I'm looking at that final game week fixture. Wolves have nothing to play for. Arsenal looking to finish the season strongly, just to, I don't know, not give validation to it, but just say, we're here. We're trying to get as close to 90 points as possible, which would win the league in so many seasons. I feel like that could just be a haul for Odegaard incoming. All right, do you want to give us our last midfielder for you, and then I'm going to give you a few names at the end, and then you make the decision on the final midfielder.
Okay. So let's see. I think my only one, I think I've said them all yet. So my last one is a player that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to give strong consideration for my team. I'm going to give all these players I've talked about strong consideration for my team. Like I said, I am chasing myself as well. So Dwight McNeil, away to Wolves in 37, then at home to Bournemouth. So again, two teams without anything to play for. Two decent enough teams, but they're still mid-table, lower to mid-table. They're not. It's not. You can't really get better fixtures than that. And obviously, Everton do have something to play for. And Dwight McNeil away at Brighton, and in some of the games, but in that game in particular that I watched the 90 minutes of that one, was sensational on and off the ball. Even from a non-FPL point of view, was amazing, and from an FPL point of view, because I think he score two, get an assist, but crazily good performance. Obviously, that's only one performance and didn't do anything at City like you'd expect, but in those teams against the likes of the Wolves and Bournemouth, I really like McNeil. Yeah, I think he's incredible, and obviously he's been doing better under Dyche, a manager he knows from Burnley, compared to under Lampard. So yeah, I think I really wouldn't be surprised to see the likes of McNeil over the course of the next two game weeks outscore some of those more favoured Man City midfielders, or even the likes of, I don't know, I'm not going to name drop every midfielder, but yeah, I think he could do really well.
Well, I'll do it for you, because I think if you're looking at someone like a McAllister, right? Southampton at home is a good fixture, but if he's going to play deeper in that fixture, which he may well do, then Man City at home, not a good fixture. And I don't know, it's a tough one, because as you said, Everton have everything to play for. In that game, again, they're differentials for a reason. They're not going to be the optimal picks. Fantasy Football Hub's my team tool is not predicting McNeil to get more points than McAllister, but if you're chasing someone that has McAllister, has Matoma, etc., you physically can't beat them by going for the same players. You have to go differential, and if budget is prohibiting you,
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with the McNeil shout at all. He's shown he has
I think,
potential. Why not?
yeah, I think especially if you compare, let's say you're chasing someone with a Man City midfielder, a Mahrez, a Grealish, a Foden, a Gundogan, who all are amazing players in their own right, but they might not have the double game week. And with Dwight McNeil, you're guaranteed 2 games in a row, and a game of 37, a game of 38. You're not really guaranteed that from City assets. Yes, they've got the double, um, of course, but yeah, I can see someone like McNeil outscoring the majority of City mids. Obviously, that could come back and look stupid, of course.
Of course it could, but that is the entire point. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are chasing someone with some of those players, I think it's good to sprinkle in differentials. If you do, if there's a really popular double game week asset who everyone has, maybe you could use, 2 transfers. One is to get that, make sure you don't lose ground. You get the type likes of a McAllister or a Bruno, and then with the other transfer, you get someone we've mentioned with this. So you're sprinkling one in, depending on how far you are behind. Of course, if you're like 50 points behind, then just go for it. But if you're only slightly behind, you can kind of do one differential, one sort of one less differential.
Yeah, I do want to reiterate this is all within reason, and we're not saying for 1 second like go out and get like take hits for these players.
Get 11.
Yeah,
all 11.
Exactly. It's just like if you need to chase, it is impossible to get 50 points across 1 game week by getting the same players as the people above you in mini leagues. You have to go differential, and these are the sort of players that we think could do quite well. Okay, last position in the team is going to be midfielder, of course, Wes. And I'm going to give you some options, and then you're going to make the final decision. Okay, so first of all, a player that you've just mentioned there, in Riyad Mahrez. Now, I feel like he may be one of the most likely to get 2 games, 2 starts across the double. That's the reason I've chucked him in. I don't know for sure about that, but I feel like he may not play in against Real Madrid on Wednesday night, and therefore could play both. He has Hull potential, of course, playing for Man City, and they still need to win both those games to secure the league. That's one name. Next name is Sterling. Complete differential. Again, I think he's just shown that he's in good form. Scored a couple of goals last game. Looks like he was really up for it, really passionate, especially after that second goal. I expect him to start twice. I don't see why he wouldn't necessarily. The only player on our team that seems to be scoring goals right now, at Chelsea, that is. So, he's another option for you. And the final option is another single game week player in Eberici Eze. Now, I think that he has a couple of really good, just solid single game weeks. Again, not sure on Forest final day if they're going to need something or not. So that is dependent. But Fulham away, why not? Eze's in great form. Fulham with nothing to play for. Palace with nothing to play for, but that might just be a high scoring game, just a fun one. Both teams looking to attack rather than defend. So out of those 3, who do you reckon?
It's so tough. I like them all to shout, like you say, especially if Mahrez doesn't play in the Champions League. And if someone like Haaland's rested, then you're going to have Mahrez on penalties as well. And especially after Gundogan missed, Pep even then came out and said Haaland or Mahrez must take the penalties, basically. So, yeah, he's got pens when Haaland isn't on the pitch, which is, he's likely to be rested, isn't he? A lot of Haaland over these next, not maybe from the start, but subbed early and stuff like that. Sterling off the back of those 2 goals. And compared to someone like a Mahrez or even an Eze, he's going to be a super differential, and he's going back to his old stomping ground away to City. Oh, I like them all. 3 good options. Let's go for the Uber differential and the one with the double game week as well, because like I said, I think Mahrez's ownership might creep up a little bit. So let's go for Sterling for that super duper differential. For this team, I think the double is hard, obviously, like with the Mendy shout earlier from the start of the video. But yeah, let's just go for it with a double game week. Hey, that's a proper Hail Mary pick, isn't it? If you're looking for a little bit more of a sensible differential, then go for one of the other 2 you mentioned.
Why not? Why not, I say. All right, let's just round up this team. Obviously, cash is not going to be an issue here at all, because I just want to see how many points this team is likely to get. Out of the players that we've chosen, who would you be most likely to captain, do you think? I can run you back through the players or the ones that the hub is predicting to score the most points, but there aren't too many captain shouts in here.
Yeah, that's the thing with it. With a team like this, a captaincy would be tough, wouldn't it? It would have to be a double game week option. Run me through some of the midfield options again.
So we've got.
I've got the ones I've picked. Which ones did you pick again?
Oh, the ones I picked are not as good as the ones you've picked in terms of who you expect to score points. We've got Sterling in there, and we have well, that's it really. Eze on the bench I've put there.
Yeah, I think go Sterling purely for him being the most super differential we could possibly get in this team in terms of one of the attackers, apart from the likes of, Mendy or Porro. I think out of the attacking options, which is I'd always captain a midfielder or forward myself. So I think he's the most differential and the most Hail Mary. So that's for people properly chasing like 100 points behind or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Again, you got to go for it at some point in the season. It kind of has to be now. Okay, so that's the team then. Predicted points of 64. Not awful. I mean, definitely not great. Mendy predicted 0 points in goal. I mean, we know for a fact that's not right.
Yeah, that'll be some just some manual intervention needed. The AI will be thinking that Kepa's still starting for Chelsea, but it will have to be switched up to Mendy.
Indeed. So look, there we go, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Again, one more time, don't go pick 11 of these players. I know you're not going to do that, but Wes and I wanted to change things up. We didn't just want to go with the template players, like, which Brighton players are you looking to get in this week? We've all got 3, or, the best ones. But this, if you're really chasing, like Wes and I are, to be fair, in some many leagues, will give you, I think, a little bit of an insight into certain players that could make all the difference. We've seen it all before. You can make up huge gains in the final game weeks, especially in 38 with all those goals that happen every single year. So, yeah, Wes, thank you very much. What do you reckon to this team in general?
Cheers, mate. Not bad. And it's just there to highlight the differentials you can go for, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Okay, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Good luck in the upcoming game week. Let us know in the comments down below if you like this style of video and you want to include some of these players in your teams. Again, if you want to try out the tool yourself and put some differentials in, the link, as always, is down below. And we'll see you on the next one.